INEC schedules Osun Rerun elections for Thursday. 6 bodies recovered from a Maiduguri boat mishap. In international news, pirates adopt 12 crew members of a Swiss cargo ship off Nigerian coast. And in sports, Nigeria D-Tigers beat Turkey to win 2018 International Basketball Federation World Cup group stage.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. It is no longer news that the Independent Electoral Commission has declared Saturday's governorship election in Osun State inconclusive and scheduled a rerun for Thursday. The returning officer, Joseph Uwakwe, declared the election verdict as provided by the Electoral Act, which stipulates a rerun if the margin of victory in an election is lower than the number of votes in units where elections are cancelled. The National Commissioner listed affected units as Orolu local government, where there were disruptions in 3 polling units. Almost 1,000 voters were affected. In Ife South, malfunctioning card readers in 2 polling units affected more than 1,000 voters. Ife North was also affected. More than 3,000 voters were affected in Osogbo local government, where no voting took place at all. Meanwhile, opposition People's Democratic Party has rejected INEC's declaration. President Muhammadu Buhari has arrived in New York along with his wife Aisha, where he is attending the United Nations General Assembly. The president's special advisor on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, says the high point of his participation will be his address to the General Assembly on Tuesday. The president is expected to reaffirm Nigeria's commitments to international peace and security, sustainable socio-economic development, disarmament and denuclearization, youth and women empowerment, climate change, rule of law and human rights. The 73rd session of the United Nations General Assembly officially opened last Tuesday with the theme, Making the United Nations Relevant to All People. Global leadership and shared responsibilities for peaceful, equitable and sustainable societies. The National Assembly has postponed the resumption of the 2 chambers to early October. Clerk of the National Assembly, Sani Omorolu, says this is because of the ongoing party primaries. The National Assembly was scheduled to resume tomorrow. The All Progressives Congress APC has rescheduled its presidential primaries from Tuesday to Thursday. National Publicity Yakini Nabena says the governing party has revealed its date for primaries. Last week, no other primary dates were changed. The presidential primary will hold on Thursday, same day Osun governorship rerun takes place. President Muhammadu Buhari is the only presidential aspirant to have purchased the 45 billion naira APC presidential farm. The 2 main political parties in Bayelsa State, the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressives Congress, are on a war path over allegation of stockpiling of arms ahead of next year's election. PDP has accused APC of building up arms in the state, and APC has fired back, saying the allegation was an attempt to prevent people from discovering the truth about another violence being planned by the PDP. Local divers have recovered 6 bodies of accident victims in a capsized boat at Zabamari area in Jere local government area of Borno State. Ward head of Zabamari, Bulema Maidama, confirmed that 2 females and 4 males died while 3 others were rescued. He attributed the accident to heavy wind and sandstorm. National Emergency Management Agency Northeast Zone Coordinator Bashir Garba said most of the passengers were returning from Jumat prayers when the incident happened on Friday.
If you know fit go internet or follow for Twitter, you know fit snap photo send or get it photo send. Now because you dey use Palasa, your phone no dey answer. See me see wahala, my brother go get smartphone yeah. Drop that Palasa phone, phone wey no go for your hand yeah. Drop that Palasa phone, phone wey no fit take selfie. Drop that Palasa phone, no be correct phone yeah. Drop that Palasa phone.
Upgrade to a smartphone today and get double data for 6 months on any MTN data bundle you buy. Simply purchase a smartphone from any store, anywhere in Nigeria, or bring your current smartphone from any network. Insert your MTN SIM card to start enjoying your double data bonus. Offer is open to all new and existing MTN subscribers. Join the largest smartphone movement today.
Make it not for your hand. That's Palasa phone.
Isuikwuato in Abia State, fondly known as the land of the generals, has a long history of gully erosion. But the recent incident at Guaba has cut off entire communities from the rest of the state. The gully erosion, about 7 kilometers from Abia State University, Uturu, has split into two: the main federal highway, the only road that links Enugu and other communities in the state. The depth of the frightening gully, which occurred right in the middle of the road, measures about 15 meters. Reports say it could worsen in the days ahead unless urgent remedial measures are initiated. Governor Okeze Ekweazi says only the federal government can help with emergency funds during incidents of such magnitude. The governor says the state would create a diversion away from the gully site as part of interim measures. He also said the state would step up sensitization of communities to relocate from areas prone to dangerous erosion. Health officers in Kaduna State under the maternal and perinatal death surveillance and responses have said that the state carried out more than 10,000 deliveries across the state in the first 6 months of this year. Of those, the state recorded more than 120 maternal deaths. According to Abubakar, the causes of the deaths include post and antepartum hemorrhage, sepsis, anemia, and embolism. Abubakar stated further that some hospitals do not have ready-to-use blood because there was no state-owned blood supply chain system, non-functional blood banks because of irregular electricity supply, non-functional ambulances for emergency referral patients, and pregnant women with obstetric complications. The hospitals also do not have manual vacuum aspiration kits for the management of incomplete abortion. The health experts said the number of women likely to die as a result of pregnancy or childbirth could be prevented if the State Ministry of Health and Human Services could establish a mechanism that would ensure accessibility to essential life-saving drugs in hospitals. The federal government has commenced the expansion of Ibadan-Ijebu-Igbo Road, which had been abandoned for the past 25 years. Project manager Ade Adedeji says construction of the road will start in Olomi area of Ibadan and link Ijebu-Igbo. Representing the contractor, Adedeji added that the project will be completed in 2 years. A 45-kilometer stretch of the road will be rehabilitated. The road project, which has been abandoned for 25 years now, will boost socio-economic activities of people along the path. It will also ease interstate movements between Oyo and Ogun State. Some of the villagers have appealed to the federal government to release funds appropriately so that the construction would not extend beyond 2 years. Group Managing Director of Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC), Dr. Makanti Baru, has urged oil workers to halt their planned strike over a labor dispute involving Chevron management and staff. The National Unit of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers (NUPENG) and the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria (PENGASEN) issued the strike notice last week. Baru said he had directed the management to work with other stakeholders to resolve the issues raised by the leadership of the unions. Barr expressed fears that recent gains in the sector could be frittered away inadvertently if care is not taken.
You are watching ANN.
If you know fit go internet or follow for Twitter, you know fit snap photo send or get it photo send. Now because you dey use Palasa, your phone no dey answer. See me see wahala. My brother, go get smartphone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no go for your hand, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no fit take selfie. Drop that Palasa phone. No be correct phone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone.
Upgrade to a smartphone today and get double data for 6 months on any MTN data bundle you buy. Simply purchase a smartphone from any store, anywhere in Nigeria, or bring your current smartphone from any network. Insert your MTN SIM card to start enjoying your double data bonus. Offer is open to all new and existing MTN subscribers. Join the largest smartphone movement today.
Make it not for your
Welcome back. This is in the news around Africa now. Burials have begun for victims of the capsized ferry in Tanzania. The death toll has now risen to 224. Tanzania Broadcasting Corporation said on Sunday Prime Minister Kassim Majaliwa is leading mourners at the funeral. In the midst of grief, rescuers found a survivor 2 days after the tragedy. He was identified as an engineer on the ferry who had locked himself in the engine room. His condition was not immediately known. Tanzania's Defense Chief, Venance Mabeyo, told reporters at the scene no further survivors were likely and search efforts would end. Officials would concentrate on identifying the dead bodies. Gabon has held a decision by the International Criminal Court not to open a formal probe into claims of violence as brave after a disputed presidential poll in a country ruled by the same family for nearly 50 years. ICC had sent a fact-finding mission to Gabon last year following a suit filed by the opposition and 15 non-governmental organizations to investigate alleged crimes against humanity when violence broke out after the 2016 vote. The government filed a counter-suit alleging incitements to hatred and violence by the opposition. The ICC announced its decision late on Friday. The Gabonese government spokesperson said the country is happy with the fair and brave decision of the ICC, which confirms to the version of events it gave to the court. A Kenya-based program that gives life skills and supports to teenage girls through football, known as Horn of Africa Development Initiative, has won FIFA's Diversity Award for 2018 in London on Sunday. The organization's flagship program, Shoot to Score, helps to prevent children from being forced into ethnic rivalry and conflict, providing safe spaces for learning a culture of non-violence through football. FIFA's Diversity Award recognizes an outstanding organization striving for diversity and anti-discrimination. While still on the theme of diversity, Kenyans and Pacific Asian nationals residents in the country sampled various foods and watched cultural performances and exhibitions from all the countries at a seasonal barbecue festival held in the capital Nairobi on Saturday. Lucia Deyemi reports.
The Kenyan Asia-Pacific Barbecue Festival was aimed at creating a platform for Kenyans and Asian residents in the country to interact and celebrate each other's diverse culture and culinary traditions. China, India, Sri Lanka, South Korea were among the Asian nations that participated.
China-Africa Cooperation Forum Summit was organized in Beijing. So this event is the first ever event, just something like the follow-up action after the summit.
Officials from the Indian Embassy in Kenya also said they would like more participation in next year's event.
We are happy that we didn't miss the opportunity to take part in this first ever barbecue festival. And from next year onwards, we plan to scale it up in a much larger way.
For local business startups, the festival created an opportunity to break new ground.
We run Paradigm Ventures tours and safaris, and we're doing a lot of local tourism and international tourism. And we are targeting a lot of Asians to come and partner with us. We take them for safaris and tours around Kenya and even around Tanzania and Uganda.
The festival seeks to reinvigorate the centuries-old ties between Kenya and Asia by creating a unity brewed in food, dance and business. Lucy Adeyemi, ANN News.
There is a new all-news network on the scene in Nigeria to give news from a purely news perspective and to promote free information flow across Africa. Fresh views, unbiased, bold, with a purely African view. African News Network, ANN, in a truly African spirit.
While the world sleeps, ANN News stays awake. News takes no time off. We are awake so you can sleep. We report the stories that keep you up to date, events that affect your day, your week, month, and experiences. We scour the world, bringing it to your living room. Watch ANN News in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. On the international scene, 12 crew members on a Swiss cargo ship have been taken hostage after the vessel was attacked by pirates off the coast of Nigeria. According to a statement released by Maso Shipping, the MV Glarus was attacked while sailing from Lagos to Port Harcourt with a shipment of wheat. A pirate gang boarded the Glarus by means of long ladders and cut the razor wire on deck to gain access to the vessel and the bridge, having destroyed much of the vessel's communications equipment. The criminal gang departed, taking 12 of the 19 crew complement as hostage. An attack on the military parade in the southwestern city of Havras, Iran, leaves at least 29 people killed and 70 wounded. The dead and wounded include military personnel, civilians, and journalists in attendance watching the parade. Spokesman for the Iranian Armed Forces Brigadier General Abu Fazil Shekaj says terrorists began shooting from the long distance at the armed forces as well as civilians. 3 of the attackers were gunned down during clashes with the security forces and 1 other was arrested, news agencies reported. According to the statement run Islamic Republic News Agency, the separatist group Patriotic Arab Democratic Movement in Awaz claimed responsibility for the attack. However, Iran's President Hassan Rouhani has blamed foreign mercenaries backed by the United States for the attack. He says, quote, "It is America who supports these little mercenary countries in the region. It is Americans who are provoking them. It is America who provide them with the required necessities to perpetrate such crimes, and the government is ready to counter any action by the USA, and Americans will regret this." Mexican authorities have found remains of children along with adults in the clandestine burial pits. Tiny pants for a baby not older than 6 months and shiny pink sandals for a toddler among the personal items that turned up at mass graves in the Gulf states of Veracruz, emphasizing the brutality of rising violence in Mexico. Each time of clothing was either found near a body or cut free from remains. The National Commission of Missing Persons posted hundreds of pictures of clothing online to give family members a tool to possibly identify missing loved ones. Photos show multiple children items such as little sweaters, t-shirts with images of Tinkerbell, Tweety Bird, and Pokemon. Authorities announced the discovery of the mass grave in early September after having counted 166 calls. The Interior Ministry said more recently the body count has seen risen to 174. Digging continues at the site and picture catalog will be updated as additional garments are found as thousands of Mexicans are clamoring for information about relatives who have disappeared since the government declared war on drug cartels more than a decade ago. A Chinese hospital ship has docked in Venezuela where for the next week it will provide free health care to local patients. A Chinese crew was welcomed by Venezuela's Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez at the port of La Guaira. The minister thanked China for the gesture of friendship and said that both countries would benefit. A peace arc, as they call it, was agreed by President Nicolas Maduro during a visit to Beijing last week. Venezuela agreed to increase its export oil to China, which is one of its main creditors. The country's economic crisis has led to severe shortage of food and medicines and the collapse of public services. The defense minister further praises China, saying, quote, "This is how true diplomacy is done, the concrete cooperative actions," end quote. Thousands of anti-Brexit protesters rallied in Liverpool to call for a second EU referendum as the opposition Labour Party's annual conference convened on Sunday. The protesters holding flags of the European Union called for Britain's breakup with the EU to be stopped and for a second referendum to be conducted. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn said on the same day that he would support the idea of a second referendum if his party voted for it at this week's annual party conference. Britain is due to leave the EU in March 2019, raising extensive concerns on the country's uncertain political and economic future. Many fear that Brexit will hurt the British economy and set Britain's worse off.
And Brexit and whether we should have a people's vote. So today, the most important issue is the people's vote.
I think a lot of people feel like the stuff that they were promised in 2016 when they voted just hasn't happened. So a lot of people voted to leave for legitimate reasons, I think, but what has actually happened is we've seen a government in chaos. So we've seen 13 government resignations, we've seen the government lose 33 seats.
You are watching ANN.
If you know fit go internet or follow for Twitter, you know fit snap photo send or get it photo send. Now because you dey use Palasa, your phone no dey answer. See me see wahala. My brother, go get smartphone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no go for your hand, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no fit take selfie. Drop that Palasa phone. No be correct phone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone.
Upgrade to a smartphone today and get double data for 6 months on any MTN data bundle you buy. Simply purchase a smartphone from any store, anywhere in Nigeria, or bring your current smartphone from any network. Insert your MTN SIM card to start enjoying your double data bonus. Offer is open to all new and existing MTN subscribers. Join the largest smartphone movement today.
Make it up for your hand, that's Palasa phone.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, Nigeria's FIFA basketball team, the Tigers, have recorded their first win in the 2018 FIBA Women's Basketball World Cup. They defeated Turkey 74-68 in the second group game of the tournament. The first quarter ended 15-7 with Turkey in the lead and dominating proceedings in the early stages. The Tigers upped their game in the second quarter 22-17, still trailing at halftime. Third quarter ended with Tigers pulling out an astonishing win at 26-22, the first win in a World Cup competition. It is victory at last for the world number one golf's winning machine. It had been 5 years, 1,876 days since Tiger Woods last won a title. Well, he's back now after that long streak with a two-shot victory in the season final. Woods had suffered many setbacks in that time, both physically and personally, but the 42-year-old bounced back on the outskirts of Atlanta over the weekend as he landed PGA Tour victory number 80. Thousands of fans swarmed to the final fairway as Woods entered his victory march. Only a year ago, Woods could barely walk after 4 back operations in 18 months. The spinal fusion last April gave him a ray of hope. Congratulations to him. And that is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit our website, annafrica.net. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.